Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time you are tuning in. Michelle Houghton here for Copic in the Craft Room. This is a new release from Kraftin Kimmie, and it's a whole set that has little lumberjack images that are just way too cute. Let me see if I can show you the full set. We've got a little girl with an axe, a young man with an axe. We've got the wood, stump, and chopping kind of blocks. And then for a hairy special guy, you're a cut above the rest. Would you be mine? I fell for you. Choppy birthday. A few hearts and a flower. Anyway, pretty cute. I am going to turn this young gal into me because I definitely fell for my husband and send this to him because I think absolutely perfect. Could be a Valentine's Day card or something similar. I send him cards pretty regularly these days. So I'm going to use, I have brown hair, and if you haven't seen it recently, I've got kind of a teal or aqua at the bottom. So I am going to do that. And then I am going to, I think, put me in kind of some washed out denim, and I could actually do a plaid that I own. I might try to do that. I can grab that out of my closet and kind of play with those colors. But first, the hair and skin. I am extremely light skinned, and this little girl already has freckles, which is good because I got them. This is one of my more favorite skin tones right now. Kind of go with this group. So I've got an E50 to start, and I've got a face and hands to do. Now, am I a wood chopper? No. In fact, I don't know that I would attempt an axe. I do have some silly shoulder issues, so that would probably be a don't do that activity. Now, I will say, you could argue, I think I must have printed these on an old sheet, and I did. You could argue that this is actually a hat, or it's the hair pulled back. I'm going to say it's the hair pulled back, but you could do it as a knit cap. Either one would work, I think, pretty easily. All right, E21. So nice round face. I don't have to do a lot of in and out on this, but I am going to give a touch of shape, bringing that in from the sides, and then up kind of one side of the nose, underside of the hands, and those little fingers will get a little darker. Not sure on the nose piece. That might end up changing here. Oops. Ear. And then E31, that was an E21. I'm not sure if I said that now. E31, smaller amounts. I should have tried this nose first because I'm looking at that and I'm not liking that as much. I should have tested that out on a practice run. I did not add any of the E31 there. The E21 is going to pull that out a little bit further. And then E50. Yeah, I'm looking at this image now and I'm seeing a whole bunch of different little things you could do. You could actually turn that into a hat, with a tail, more like a coon hat. But this is going to be a ponytail. My ponytail, to be more specific. My husband will know exactly what this is, or who this is more specifically, right? Yeah, I like this better. I think with the nose curving around, I'm going to show you over here. I've got another one. This is what I should have done first, is I should have tested this out. I think a better way to do that nose is more just to curve around the one side. And you could do either one, but not to extend this one up. I think that's a happier, as this is drying, I'm thinking that's a much better route to go with this. A little more with the E50. There we go. And then I'm going to add a touch of B93 out on those cheeks. It may or may not need blending in. You can kind of see where yours is at. And I should have done the other side of the nose. I don't know. You guys are going to need to see me play a little bit here. This is that E21. I'm kind of playing around to see what would happen if I did both sides. Because in reality, because she's turned slightly, the darker side should be the one away from the viewer on the nose. So we'll see. We're just playing. There we go. Actually, that's not bad. All right, so then I'm going to do hair. So if you've seen Copic College or seen me do one of these before, I typically base the entire head of hair with a color, like a lighter version of the hair color, like kind of the lightest. So I'm going to use a series of E2s for the brown portion of my hair. E21, 23, 25, 27. And then what'll happen with the ponytail is the 2-1 will go all the way down, but then I'm going to bring some BGs from the bottom up. Let's see. Trying to decide. I'm thinking the 4s. That's a 4-5. 4-9. I feel like I need something with a little more blue in it though. I wonder if, no, that goes way green. Oh, there we go. So this is actually an odd combo here. I've got a BG45, BG49, but then I'm going to finish with a BG07. I actually think that's going to get me where I want to go. So top and basing the tail first. So all of this is getting a little E21. Don't let her fall off the screen here. And then all the way down the tail. You could keep it lighter, and obviously if you wanted just to do the similar color all the way down, you certainly don't need to give her ombre. And it could be a coon hat. Okay, so E23. Now the artist has given me these very distinct lines where the hair is being pulled back. So I am going to use those because I am saying this is hair. And I'm going to follow along that path. See how it changes direction and comes back from the other way. Now I want to do a few of them coming from the other direction as well. This is E23, by the way. I'm gripping it in my left hand, so sorry. Okay, So there's the E23, and then it's also going to come, because the way my little hair do works is I've got the blue-green kind of filters up in there. So you see kind of streaks of the darker brown kind of working down into. So that'll work for that. 2-5. Fewer flicks. Same starting and stopping points. They don't need to like sit on top of the last one. I'm just starting from that front edge, kind of following those curves back. Different lengths, some are shorter, some are longer, but all of them are starting up at this very front line, and then there'll be a few starting from that back line and flicking forward. Not as many of these. As we get darker, there's not as many. Now this hair that's right behind under the ear, that's going to be fairly dark. So if you want to just fill that in, you can. All right, there you go. And then E27, this I'm going to be a little more specific with. I'm going to put a few, if you want to keep this in sections, you could kind of do it by section, a couple at each kind of edge. So I'll have a few from the front, a couple coming out from the back, forward, and then coming, ooh, look out. It's trying. Looked like it was about to decide to splooge. Do not need a blob. Thank you very much. So on this portion, I could use a little bit of E23 to soften some of that. I'm debating if I need to come back on her skin and put a few of those freckles in a little more distinctly. Not sure yet. Just thinking. I don't need to do a whole lot on the ponytail because that is going to get lighter here in a second. And then I'm going to come in with my E21, just barely in some of those lighter areas. So this smushed together pretty significantly. I'm not seeing a ton of texture. I'm okay with that for this. She's so small. So from the tip up, I'm actually going to go over most of this, and I have to kind of curl it. So if you need to turn her on her side, definitely do that. So you can get kind of around that swoosh. This is a juicy marker. All right. So I'm going right up into those earth tones. And then I'll put her at a tip here. I think this will work better for my hand this morning. This is that BG49. That first one was BG45. More of a texture here. Flicks. And coming back down. But can you see what's happening with the browns in here? How they're kind of blending in even further. And I love that effect because honestly, that is actually what my hair looks like. But there's also kind of a little bit more bluish tint, especially near the very tips. For some reason, it holds the color a little bit differently. So it's kind of fun to add some of those little details in. Okay. There we go. So if I want to soften this just a little, I don't want to, I'm going to smush it too much if I'm not careful, but I'm going to take that BG45 and do some broad strokes. There we go. Now, if this gets too like narrowed down, I could go all the way back in with a super light BG and brighten up some of those highlights. So just like I would with a colorless blender, I'm going to go in and hit just a couple of those, kind of back and forth, and add just a few little spots. So I'm going to leave it like that for now. Can always come back and play with it a little more. There is skin and hair. And then debating on the eyes. There's not really like the whites of her eyes and the color. Here, we'll do this. Come over here. And I'm going to use, let's try these ones. This is a B41. Because technically those would be like the whites of her eyes. But it'd be fun to add a little color. So can I get away with that? I'm thinking yes. So this is a B41. And that's going to come around. And then a B45 is going to come from the top. Now, if I accidentally ran over that highlight, I could definitely hit that with a little opaque white at the end. So I'm just doing the two colors, kind of half and half. And I'm going to push that highlight one time. Lighten that up just a little. Okay. So I'm not sure on that. Thinking. I'll leave it for now. And then we've got the axe and clothing and all this other stuff. So I'm going to use the BG07 and kind of every other and you could definitely do just like a buffalo plaid on that. That would be fun. We'll do kind of similar to that. See, that one's probably under. Trying to kind of figure out when I can't see them all what they would be. And I'm going to do a gray, kind of earth tone. This is E71. It has kind of some mauve or purple undertones to it. I think that'll work pretty well with that. There we go. I'll lighten up some of this on the eyes again, a little more. Oh well, okay. Too late. Let's see, some denim on the pants. This is B91. Lots of blue on this image. And B95 and then B97. Get just a little bit of that B97 on there. And back to the B95. And then B91. Now, if I want to make these look washed, I can let those dry and then hit them with the colorless blender. So I might do that here in a second. You'll laugh if I really make this meme. My hiking boots are blue. It's a little over, probably a little overkill though. So I am going to do, I was just realizing that. I'm going to do some browns. This is an E44 and E47. These are small, so there's not a lot of space to do. In fact, let's do this. We'll do the belt, kind of matching that. All right. Coming down around that bottom edge. Trying to leave the toes a little bit lighter. Across those shoelaces a bit. I'm just going to try to hit the edges of that E47. I don't necessarily want to darken that all up. I'm just trying to soften the edge of it, and because everything's still wet, I think it's going to work. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to keep hitting those eyes. I shouldn't have done the eyes. This is going to drive me nuts. So I'm going to keep hitting those. I might even grab a tissue and start trying to pull a little bit of that color out. Without getting into the skin. I like the idea of the color. I'm just looking at that now though, and it's just not where I want it to be. So I'd really rather not start over again. All right, some metal on the axe head. C3. I'm doing a horrible job telling you guys what I'm using today. Sorry. I'm going to definitely have to go back and add those on the video. I'm gripping in my left hand today, which is not unusual for me, but today I'm definitely not doing a good job of setting that down. I am assuming this is kind of a worn piece of metal. It just, so there is no bright white shine. If anything, there could be some texture on it because of being sharpened and used over and over. So I'm going to come in with my colorless blender and kind of add, you could add little hatch marks or add kind of some texture on there, but I'm definitely not going to leave like a bright white highlight because it's not shiny wood. I am going to use kind of my standard. Let's see, that one's already out. Yes. Not that. That. Okay. So for wood, my standard go-to is E31, E35, and E25. So all of this is going to get that. You could absolutely debate and do something different on any of these pieces. You can do different combinations because it's a different type of wood. You could make this more like a birch or aspen on top that then is getting just a light gray. You can absolutely change that around a bit. So on the handle, I'm going to use the E35 just a little bit because this is probably brushed pretty smooth if it's something that's being used like an axe handle. So it's not really going to show like the wood texture. I just want it to have that same coloring. And you could add wood texture on there. When you have that long, slender handle that people are gripping and holding on to, the chances of it having the actual texture running up and down it is probably pretty slim. I would think that would be more of a smooth piece of wood. On the stump and this chunk here though, we're going to have the bark on the outer edge. So I've got my E35 at this point, and I'm going to run that fairly quickly. See, I've been good recently about refilling a bunch of these, so a couple of these are just really juicy and ready to go, which is awesome. But I do have to kind of watch every once in a while. I get a little exuberant with my refills, so I need to keep an eye on them so they don't splooge up. I'm getting a few closer together out to both edges, both the right and the left, because I do want this to look like a round cylinder shape. So I'm coming over to both edges and getting that a little bit denser or tighter together. Then for the tops, I'm not going to do many of these, but I am going to come around. See how the artist has created those tree rings? I'm going to reinforce that just a little bit. And I'm only going to do it with this one. I'm not going to try to do it with my next color, which is my E25. That is going to be the bark. I am not going to put that on the axe handle. It's only going to come over here on the bark of the tree. And it's going to have a few out to each of the sides, right and left, and then just some little partial ones that run through that middle section. But again, I'm doing two things. I've got the texture going, but I also am getting that shape. So hopefully it's now looking like it curves away from the viewer at either side. Now, you can leave it like this, or E31 very, very lightly. Kind of one pass over the whole thing. If it's still too much, try one more, but then let it sit. Truly let it just sit for a while. You can always come back and try to smush it one more time, but it's hard to add that texture back in once you've made it disappear. So just be really cautious about that. So on her, let's see, I am going to grab a tissue. I'm going to try to take a little more of this blue off the eyes. The challenge here is not to get it into the skin. I may or may not accomplish that end. So I've just put something really absorbent underneath her to kind of encourage the color to come through the back. Obviously, it's kind of confusing back there since I've done this on top of something else. I try to reuse paper, and I've got a ton of stuff from old Copic college classes that the paper is still great paper, and so I hate to not use it, but it's images that I have colored dozens of times, and I still have literally 20, 30 copies of that I hadn't handed out. Just extras. Okay, so I think I need to stop fiddling, and if anything, I could put something. I'll let that sit for a second. Just let it sit. Let it sit, Michelle. I might have to do something significantly darker at the top to make that look lighter at the bottom. We'll see. Yeah. All right. So a little bit of sky, a little bit of ground. Gonna use just some more standard colors here. Nothing super groundbreaking. We're gonna put her on a grassy kind of knoll here. This is, ooh, this needs to be refilled. This was probably a mistake. This really does need to be refilled. Okay, we'll see if this is any better. That is hilarious. No, this is even worse. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm setting these to the side. This is not what I'm using. Wow. Sorry about this, guys. We'll try this. This is gonna work. This is a good part about me using different markers each time I color, is I find which ones have been sadly neglected and desperately need some love. So we'll have to see. One of those was looking like I maybe let it go too long. You can ruin a marker by not refilling it, folks. So hopefully I can revive it. So I am not going to go out to the edges. This is a full half sheet of paper that I'm working on because I had stamped the image twice. I am going to get this smaller so I can still use some fun background papers for a little card. I'm kind of all over the place on this today, so I hope this has been entertaining, if nothing else. Don't you love it when I don't plan anything and you guys get to see me just making messes and experimenting? Make sure I get that kind of filled in so we don't have kind of a funny halo effect around objects. Is that about? Yeah, it looks about. Obviously, you want to be careful as you get up close to objects that you're not running into and over them, but at the same time, you don't want to leave a halo effect around them, so you do have to get right up against them. So this is probably something you have seen me do before. Is this up and down zigzag motion. So, completed image. There's a couple things I could do differently. I could come in and add a little bit of shape to like the shirt, but I just played with the plaid instead. We've got lots of texture in other places and shape going on. Again, this could be a totally different image if you wanted to make that kind of a coonskin hat and it's actually a little boy. To me, it immediately read little girl with a ponytail. So totally up to you. But I hope you enjoyed coloring along today with my craziness, and I hope you learned a few things. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me on Copic in the Craft Room. If you ever have any questions, please submit those in that comment section below. I do check in a couple times a week to make sure those are getting answered. And if I don't answer you right away and you've got an emergency question, just click it again, hit me a second time, and I will make sure to get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you. As always, have a happy, colorful day.